Hey there friends, this is Moimus, and in this tutorial I'd like to show you how to use the Programmable block in Space Engineers to code a super simple red alert system. But before we get started, we should talk about some things first. Space Engineers uses C# as a scripting language, and you should know at least the basic syntax of C# before we get started coding. But don't worry, don't turn off the video at this point, it's not that hard. And there are a few good resources out there, like this one. This is the Hello World tutorial of Microsoft on C#. Before we get into coding, we should take a look at Space Engineer's code editor. And as you can see, there's not much functionality. For example, we got nothing like code highlighting or stuff like that, and therefore we should use some other programs. Like this one. This one is called Sublime Text. You can download it for free on their website. It's actually not for free. If you want to write commercial code with it, you should really buy a license, because you don't want to get sued to shit by them. And it's a great program, and I think $80 is a pretty reasonable price for a program like that. It's a super lightweight code editor with features like code highlighting. As you can see here, the code is highlighted depending on the keyword. And it features autocomplete. For example, if I type stuff like pro, yeah, you see it completes the program, but we don't want that. And another reason why we want to use an external program and not the native Space Engineers code editor is that Space Engineers tends to delete your code if another player activates your programmable block, and we really don't want that, because it's super annoying if you write hundreds of lines of code and it simply got deleted. But let's get started with actual coding. As you can see, I got the code editor open in this window, and you see there's stuff like public program, public void save, public void main. What we need for this tutorial is the main method. It's this one. So we can delete these methods as they are completely optional and we don't need them. Here you can see we got some commands which explain the functionality of this method. We don't need them either, and delete them. Okay, this is the main method. The main method is the part of code that runs when you run your programmable block with this button here. You see, it's called run, and the code in the main method will be executed if we hit run. But as I said before, we don't want to use the native Space Engineers code editor and use Sublime Text instead. So we switch back to Sublime Text, and let's talk what we are gonna actually do when running our program. So the first thing we want to do is retrieve all panels we want to modify. After that, we're gonna broadcast a message to them and set their LCD color. And here are some methods we're gonna call in our main method. So it's not a huge mess of code in our main method. Now I'm gonna explain what each line of code does. And we start with our getConnectedPanels method. As you can see, we're gonna define a return type in the method head that says this method returns a list of imyTextPanels. imyTextPanels are used by Space Engineers to represent text panels and LCD screens, so other methods know, okay, if we call this method gives us a list of imyTextPanels. In the first lines of this method, you can see that we're defining two lists. First list is all panels, and the second is connected panels. The difference between them is all panels is a list of all panels connected to our ship, and connected panels is a list of panels connected to our system, to our red alert system. And in this line, we're gonna retrieve all the panels connected to our ship and add them to our all panels list. In the next line, you can see we got a for loop. This means we are gonna iterate through our all panels list. And for each panel in this list, we check if the name contains a tag. In this case, it's RROS in brackets. And I'm using this because I don't want to modify all panels of my ship, because some panels might contain some important data we don't want to lose when activating the red alert system. So we only modify our panels with RROS in the name. And if this condition is true, these panels get added to our connected panels list. Okay, after we checked for each panel and added them to our connected panels list, this method finishes and returns a connected panels list. Okay, the next method I want to show you is the broadcast to LCD method. As you can see, it has a void as a return type, which means this method returns nothing and only does things. Yeah, you can see in this brackets we defined a parameter of type string. So you can imagine it as a machine. We put a string, which means some text in it, and it does something with the text. Okay, but let's jump into the method itself. As you can see, we again got a list of screens. You can call it panels or whatever. In this case, it's called screens. And as you can see, here we are gonna call the getConnectedPanels method we defined before to retrieve all panels connected to our red alert system. After that, we're gonna iterate through the list again and write our text message we passed with our parameter before, and write them to the screen with this method, write public text. This method is predefined by space engineers and it really writes only some text to a screen. The next method is called setLCDColor, but of course you can call it whatever you want. And this method requires some more parameters separated by a comma. And as you can see, this requires a list of our screens of the type imyTextPanel, and we need a color. This is not really needed. You can of course ignore it and just write your color, define your color in the method itself. But to be more flexible and to add more colors to it, we defined it as a parameter, so we can pass any color we want to the method and set the screen background color to any color we want. As you can see, this method is pretty short. We only got a for loop and this method. And yeah, it's not really complicated. Again, we iterate through a list, which is specified here. And for each imyTextPanel in this list, we set the value of the background color to our color we passed as a parameter. Okay, before we continue with explaining the methods, I want to talk a little bit about colors and their representation on a computer. Most colors consist of some integer values like red, green, blue and alpha. These colors are familiar to you if you have used the LCD panels or lights in Space Engineers, because there you have to define the RGBA colors with a slider. But here we need to define them by text. So it's pretty unpractical to just guess the color. So I want to show you this tool. It's called Hex Color Tool, and it's free to use, of course. And it's a simple, easy tool to define your RGBA colors. For example, if we type in our value we used in our method, 255, 0, 0, 255. Okay, in this case it's not 255, here we have to pick a value between 0 and 1. In Space Engineers you have to pick a value between 0 and 255. In this case we use 1 to represent 255 or 100% of alpha value. This means this color is completely opaque. And as you can see, we get a pretty deep dark red. So yeah, we're gonna use this in this method, in this line. You can see we create a new instance of a color with the values we took from our color picker. And yeah, we call the set LCD color, get our connected panels, and pass our color as a parameter, this one. And yeah, this sets the background color of our LCD screens to the deep dark red we defined before. After that, we want to broadcast a message. We call our broadcast to LCD method and pass this string as a parameter. You might have noticed this strange \ns. These are special characters to represent line breaks. So we got this red alert message centered on the screen. And well, basically we do the same again for the no alert, but this time with blue and another value. If you type this value into our hex color tool, you'll see it's a nice light blue. And again we set the LCD color, but this time to blue, and broadcast a new message which says all systems are normal. Okay, now we got everything set up to go back to Space Engineers and paste our code. So we hit Ctrl A, Ctrl C to copy it, and switch back to Space Engineers. Here we got the code editor again, and now we just select all and paste our code. After that we check code to compile the code. As you can see, the compilation was successful, so the code is runnable by Space Engineers. And after that we hit run. And as you can see, nothing happened. Well, that's strange. No, actually it's not strange. Of course nothing happens, because we need to call these methods in our main method to actually run them. So we switch back to Sublime, and yeah, let's just call the red alert system in the main method. As you can see, autocomplete is super nice. Just add the brackets at the end, select all, copy it, and paste it. Check code again. Compilation was successful, that's great. And after that, we run it. And as you can see, the screens changed. We got our nice red, we got our red alert message on the screen, and this screen was not modified. Why is it like that? Well, let's see. As you can see, this LCD screen contains the RROS tag, this one too, but this one doesn't. So this panel doesn't get modified, and on this panel we can display data we want to keep when changing to red alert or changing back. And yeah, that's all about calling our red alert method. But of course we don't want to display the red alert all the time, so we need to switch back to normal. And yeah, let's switch back to Sublime Text and add the no alert method. Select it all, copy it, go back to the code editor, select all, paste, check code, compilation was successful, and run. As you can see, all systems are normal, red alert isn't displayed anymore, and again, this panel isn't modified. That's great, but something is not quite right. We want to switch back to red alert again, but it won't happen if we run this program. As you can see, all systems are normal, despite we ran this method again. Well, this problem isn't that hard to solve, but we need to make some modifications to our code. So let's switch back. And you can see the main method features a parameter called argument of type string. This parameter is passed by space engineers when filling this field out. We fill in something like red alert, which means a string is passed to this parameter, so we can use this string in this method. To decide which method is to be run by the program, we simply define an if statement, and if our argument equals red alert, don't forget the curly boys, our red alert method is executed, and else our no alert method is called. Again, select all, copy, switch back to space engineers, edit the code, select all, paste, check the code, compilation was successful, and now we run the code with the argument red alert. And as you can see, red alert works again. So now we want to clear the argument and run it, and as you can see, all systems are normal. Okay, well, running the code from the programmable block is not that nice, and maybe we want to activate our red alert system quickly with a button. So we just place a button. Let's put it here. And now we want to set up this button to run our programmable block. Let's see, which is our programmable block. I guess it's this one. So we select the run action with red alert as argument. And if I selected the correct programmable block, this should trigger our red alert. Yeah, it was right. Red alert was triggered. And now we set up the no alert button. Again with the same programmable block. This time we run it with no argument. Or let's say no alert. Maybe we want to add some arguments to run some other methods on the same programmable block later. And confirm, and now it should switch back to normal when we press this button. And as you can see, it works. Switch back to red alert again, pretty neat. And again, all systems normal. Yeah, that's it. But as I said, we maybe want to add some more arguments to run other methods. Maybe we want a green alert or a blue alert for whatever reason. And so we don't use an else statement and instead an else if statement. And we use the same argument check, but this time with no alert. Copy. Paste, check code. And it should does the same. Red alert. No alert. red alert, and now alert. And that's it. Adding a red alert system isn't that hard, as you can see. And I hope you enjoyed my video. Please leave a like and subscribe. And if you want to see how to add some lights or whatever to our red alert system, please let me know in the comments, and I think about adding some new tutorials on how to use the programmable block.